Hello everyone. Welcome to the NPTEL session for today, problem solving through C. So, we'll be starting the session in a few minutes so that everyone can join. So, let's wait for a few minutes so that few more people can join. So, am I audible? Just anyone can confirm. So, you can just type in the chat box if I'm audible. Okay, fine. So, we'll be starting in a minute. Hi everyone. So let's start the session. Given many students have joined, so let me share my screen. So can any one of you confirm if you can see my screen? So is the text visible? Is the audio clear? Please confirm so that we can start the session. So yeah, so hello everyone, welcome to the session. So I just want to confirm if you are able to see the screen and my audio is clear. You can see my video feed also. If you feel any technical glitches are there, kindly inform me. Otherwise, you can type in the chat box to just confirm so that we can start the session. So anyone just type in the chat box so that I can be sure that everything is fine and we can start the session. So am I not audible? Maybe I can type in the chat box. Am I audible and the screen is visible? Anyone of you can just confirm. So I'm not audible. So just type in the chat box so that I can be sure if it's working. So can anyone just confirm if I'm visible and my audio is clear? Yeah, someone is typing. Great. So let's start this session today. So welcome to the session, problem solving session on problem solving through programming in C. So today we'll be talking about the topics that were covered in this week and some of the topics from the previous week. So in the last week, we covered strings, and one of the topics that I wasn't able to cover in the previous session was functions. So we did not see any examples on functions. So in this session, we will solve some programming problems using functions in C. And moving further, we'll be solving some problems on sorting in C. So searching and sorting in C. So let's start with our session. So I would like to start the session with some problems on functions, and then from there we can build upon the first begin with the sorting and searching in C. So let's start. So let me define the basics of functions to you guys first. How to write a function definition. So let's start. New file problem 1.c. So I hope the text is visible to you all. So we'll start with functions in C. So we all know that what are functions? Functions are block of code that can be called from the main function, and they can be employed for doing some particular task on the arguments given, or the arguments are optional for functions. So, for example, one of the most basic functions that we saw in the earlier lectures was the main function. It is required by every C program in order to run. So whenever the compiler compiles the program, it's during the runtime, this function is being searched for and then it is being executed. So for every function, there are this is how a function is defined. So basically, we define the return type of the function. Then we define the function name, and then we pass in some arguments if we want. So argument one type, and then argument one name. And so, if we want multiple arguments, we can put in multiple arguments, and then we can define the function block using this curly braces. We can do any job here, so like do something in a function, and then we can either return something if the return type is a given of any given type. Otherwise, or nothing if we are using void if the return type is void. So if the return type is void, we don't need to return anything. But if it's the return type is defined, then we need to return something. So let's go ahead and create a simple program. So write a program that takes in an integer array as input and prints, let's say returns the sum of all of its elements. So, so let's say write a function to solve this problem. So we are given a problem where we have given, let's say we have an array ARR and it's defined like this. So it contains, let's say 10 elements, and the elements are the integers from 1 to 10. So, and we want to find the sum of the, we want to write a function that computes the sum of all the elements in this array and then returns that sum. So let's see how we can do this using functions. Fine. So we all know the answer should be 55 using the formula n into n plus 1 by 2. So we all know this formula. 1 by 2. So answer should be 55. And let's write up some logic for this problem in using function. Showing some error. Expected a terminator when you were expecting a terminator. So let's see what is happening here. GCC 1.c. Yeah, fine. The code is correct. So let's start. And so there are two ways to approach this problem. Suppose we don't want to use a function, then what would we do? We would simply write a logic. So let's say for int I equals to 0. We know that the maximum length is 10, so I is less than 10, and then I plus plus. So since the indexes start from 0, we need to iterate till 10 minus 1, that is 9. So that's what this function is doing. Then we can declare the variable sum that actually contains, that will store the sum of these values. So we will update sum equals to sum plus ARR at I. So we are indexing, taking the value at index I from the array. Finally, we can simply print the values. So let's say printf the sum of the values in the array is, and then print the value. So backslash n here and then sum. So let's see what's the output. Let me zoom in, guys. So yeah, let's start. So let's compile the program, gcc1.c run a.out, and we can see it prints out the sum of the values in the array is 55. So this is a basic logic that we could have written for this array. Now let's say we have multiple arrays. So this is ARR, we can name it ARR1. And then the second array is ARR10 and it contains elements from 11 till 20. And now suppose we want to find the sum of both of these arrays. So sum of elements of two arrays. Write a function. And int sum1 equals to 0 and then int sum2 equals to 0. And we want to compute the sum of both of these arrays and we want to see what is that result. So we'll start. So this is sorry. So this function is for first array, and then this logic is for first array, and then we will use the same logic again for the second array. Our values in the first array is, and the value is sum1 and sum2. Fine. So let's see what is the output. So for the second array, the sum is 155. So everyone, are you getting the point? What I want to say, like you are given two arrays having 10 elements, and you want to write a program to find the sum of the elements of these two arrays individually, and then print those sum. So what we did is actually we used this code again. So you can see the code or this code for int I equals to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, and the code on the next line from line 16 to line 18. Both the code are same. The only difference is the array. So here in the first example, first array was given in the first code, first part of the code, and in the second part of the code, we are passing in the second array as input. So essentially, what is happening here is we are reusing the lines of code again and again. And let's say we wanted to do this for 100 arrays. So it's a simple example, perfectly simple example, where you can use write these lines of code for 2 times. Now let's say we want to do this for 100 arrays. Then it's very difficult to hard code this line again and again. So let's say we will write like this. So this is for array 3, array 4, array 5, and so on. But it will be very cumbersome, and most importantly, the code will be very much cluttered. So it will be very difficult to read the code and to understand what's going on. And there might be some errors in this, and debugging will be a bigger issue for in such cases. So to resolve such problems, functions become handy. So what is a function? Function is essentially a piece of block of code that can be called by the main function or any other function as many times as you want. Fine. So let's say how would we do that? So we will define a function that does this task. So let's say we want to return the sum of values int, and we call this function get sum. We take the int arrays in argument, and we use the same line as the same code to compute the sum of the array. So int sum equals to 0, and then finally return sum. So now what we will be doing, now let's say we want to print the sum of the values, we can simply use a loop to find the sum. Let's say yeah, so let's say we want to find the sum of first array. So sum1 equals to get sum arr1, just pass in array 1, and sum2 is equals to sum2 equals to get sum arr of 2, and simply print this value. So let's see how it works. What are the outputs? So we can yeah, let me see if there is some issue. So what acha. So you can see the values are same. So initially we were getting the values 55, 155. Now again we are getting 55, 145. But this time we are not required to write this for loop again for 2 times. We simply call the functions again and for 2 times with the two different arrays as arguments, and we are getting the desired output. So kindly note that since we have defined that we want to return integer, we have used the return sum function, return statement with a sum value here. So it's an integer variable. So this is where functions come handy. They are helpful when you are trying to write a piece of code that needs to be called again, and that is being repeated again and again in the main function. So yeah, so I hope now every one of you is familiar with what functions are and why they are mostly used. So if you have any doubt, just type in the chat box, or I can start with some new features that I want to share about functions with you guys. So did you get the idea why we use functions mostly? So can anyone just confirm if you are able to follow what I'm saying here? My audio is clear. If there are any issues, just tell me. So no one is responding. So I hope my audio is clear. So am I audible? Uh, Fine, fine. So in that case, I believe none of you have any doubts on why we are trying to use function. Instead, why we are not writing just hard coding the code to solve the problem. Why we are using functions. So fine. So this is it. So this is one of the examples that introduces functions and why we are using functions. So let's go ahead and see another some new features about functions, how they work, and what is this. So let's start a new problem, and yeah, void main. And now let's solve some complex problems. So we can take problems from um, so let's say we want to solve a problem to find the square of any number using function. So write a function to find the square of any number. So let's start with this problem. So yeah, we'll be starting in a minute. There is some technical issue from my side. Yeah, let's start. So write a function to find the square of any number. So we all know the logic. Let's say we are given an input 2. We want the output to be 2 multiplied by 2. So let's write a function to do this. So maybe we can do one more interesting thing here. Uh, so basically what we can do is simply so let's make the problem a bit complex. Write a function to find a square of a num of to take input a num take in take a number, and then if it is even, return its square, maybe square root. If it's positive returns its squared root. If it is negative, return its square. So we have like made the problem a bit complex, and we'll be saying why we are actually trying to do this. So let's start this. So yeah, so let's say the input is 2, then we will need to return 1.414 and blah 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 whatever after this. And then let's say if the input is -2, we have to return 4. So this is what the function expects, program expects us to do. So let's see how we'll solve this problem. So a basic, let's say we are not using function, then what would we do? We would simply ask the user an input. So let's say we define the number is int number, and we ask the user to print it some value. Kindly enter a number. Fine. And then we use the scanner function, %d. So I hope every one of you are familiar with these scanner function and printer functions. So we have been covering this since last 8 sessions. So I hope you are able to follow through what I'm doing here. So we are actually printing on the terminal to the user that print enter a number, and then we are checking the values of that. We are storing that value into the address of variable n. Fine. So now we want to write if it is positive. So we have to check if it is greater than equals to 0. So let's say if it's positive or 0. Then what we have to do? We have to return square root. So we have to simply print as the number is non-zero, non-negative, sorry, and then its squared root is, and then we print the value. Fine. So we can use the sqrt function for the number over the number, and yeah, it will do. Else, if the number is negative, what we can do? We can simply, the number is negative, its squared value is n multiplied by n. Fine. So let's see what the program does for us. So let's clear the output, gcc2.c. Okay. Okay, sqrt function, and these returns double. So we have to use that. So here we are using a math function from the math library, that is sqrt. So it the default return type of the sqrt function is double floating point value. So that's why we were seeing a warning that you are trying to return integer instead of double. So now we have corrected it, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we have not included the necessary libraries that contains this function. So the function sqrt is defined in math.h. So we can include it, and let's see what happens now. Okay, I believe I am doing some correct. I will recall. So it's defined in math only, but it's not able to find it. It's too. Okay. So yeah. So there was an issue from my side. So essentially, we are importing the math.h, but we are not linking that library with the C program. So this is a bit something that you will be learning in at higher level courses. So this should not bother you for now. So I'll not be using these math functions until from now onwards. But yeah, for this program, we need to do this. So let's say we compile this program and then we run this. So let's say I'm entering a number 100. So the number is not negative, so its square root is 10. So we can see the output is correct. Now let's say we enter minus 100, then the number is negative, then we are printing its squared value. So yeah, the program is doing the correct thing. Now let's say we want to write a function. So for this we will again use, so yeah, yeah, double. So yeah, we can write a function. Let's say we are writing a helper function that does this task, and it does not returns anything. Void helper, and it takes in the number as input, and then we define two different functions for doing these tasks. So one is double squared root, squared root, and take a number and return sqrt of n. Again, for the second part, I can use int square maybe, and then int n and return n square. Fine. Now we are using a helper function here. Why we are using a helper function here? Because when the number is non-negative, we are using the sqrt function, which returns a double. So and while when we are squaring it, we are simply multiplying it with itself, so it returns an integer. So to mitigate the ambiguity, like we can't have two different data types for the same function until unless we are using polymorphism that you have not studied yet. So that's why I'm ignoring that fact. So suppose we can't do that. In that case, we use a third function, and what it does, it checks if it is negative or positive. If it's negative, then it calls this function and prints the value, the squared function. If it's positive, then it calls the square root function and prints the value. So let's write in the logic. If n is greater than equals to 0, let's define an output int output. Um, so yeah, then we will get a integer output. So we'll use int output equals to square root. If positive, though it will be a double because we are dealing with sqrt function. Double output equals to squared root, and then we pass in the number n, and then print the value of the output. The number is positive, the square root is, and then percentage d backslash n output. Fine. And now else the number is negative, then what we need to do, we can simply use the int output function to find the squared of the number, and then printf. So it's printf here also. The number is negative, the square is percentage d. So let's keep the line change here and then output. So there's a mistake in the previous print statement. I'm using percentage d for double. I should be using percentage f. So fine, now it works and we don't need to do anything else. Let's see how our function works. So we scanf and then call the helper function that does the task for us. Okay. Fine. So let's say I'm entering 10 again. It is positive, it's returning the square root. And then I'm giving in minus 10, it's negative, the square is 100. So the program is working fine. So it's working as expected. So we used, so through this program, we understood that we learned that we can call other functions inside of any other function. So we were calling the function square rooted squared in the function helper. So this is the one point that I wanted to explain you guys regarding functions. So everyone, is this clear? If you have any doubt, you can type in the chat box. Fine. So I'm not seeing any queries from you guys. So I believe there are no issues. So fine. Let's start with the next topic. The next point that I want to explain you guys about functions. So here you see that we have declared the functions before the main function, and then we are calling them. Let's say what happens if we declare them after the main function. So this is the same functions, and we have defined them. So in this case, we can see we are getting an warning that implicit declaration of function helper at top level, conflicting types for helper. So previous definition of helper was at a later stage. So let's see why it is happening. So yeah, why we are getting the warning? We are getting a warning because the function being called is not yet defined in the program. So that's why this is happening. Thus, quick solution to this is simply use prototyping. So prototyping is a method in which you define the function prototype, but you don't define the function body like this. And yeah, so you don't define the function definition here. You only define the function, what the function is returning and the function name followed by the arguments. Now what happens? You can see when I run the code again, compile the run again, you are not seeing any warnings. This is because we have defined that we will be entering some number, some function. We will define it at a later stage that the compiler should, the main program should understand. Fine. So this is how this works. Now let's see what happens if we do not have these function bodies defined, but the only the prototype is given. Let's try to compile this program and let's see what is happening. You can see you are saying undefined reference to helper. So this is a different time kind of error. It's not saying that helper is not defined. It's something related to loading and linking that you will be learning in later stages. So yeah, you can see it returns some issue, but yeah, now it is. Now you will see it will be working. Fine. So this is what function prototyping means. So you can define the function return type, its name, and its arguments before defining the function body. So this is how you can use function prototyping. So everyone, are you getting familiar with the concepts that I'm trying to explain here related to functions? If you have any queries, just type in the chat box. So I'll wait for 2 minutes for any response from you guys. If none of you responds, then I believe that you all are understanding everything well and everywhere. So then I will be proceeding with the next problem and new concept about function. हाँ बिल्कुल इसमें हाँ बिल्कुल इसीलिए मैं सिंगल ओपिनियन ले लूँ
और आपको भी कोई मिले जैसे अपने मिले हम अभी कमिट कुछ नहीं करेंगे
So fine, I believe none of you have any queries. So let me explain you one more interesting thing that you can use with functions. So here what was happening, we were using an else statement here. So let's say we don't want to use this else part here. We don't want to check for if it is negative and then execute this section. So and we simply write down this section right like this here. So what changes should we make to make sure this code works fine? So let's say we write return here. After we have done the computation for positive case, we simply use return and we return nothing as it's a void function. So now you will see this will what it will do. Let's see what it is doing right now, and then we'll understand. So let's say we are entering 10. It's treating the number as positive. The square root is 3.16, and these statements are not getting executed. Now, if let's say what happens if we enter a negative number, so let's say -100, it says the number is negative and the square is 10,000, I believe. Yeah, 10,000. So now you're saying this section is not getting executed and this section is getting executed. Although there is no else part here. So when it was getting executed, there was no else part and no if check statement here. This part was not getting executed. So why this was happening? This was happening because of the return statement here. So in a function body, whenever a return statement is found, whenever a return statement is executed, none of the statements after that line are going to be executed by that function. So here, if return is executed, nothing after return will be executed. So that's why the program is functioning fine. So this is another feature of using functions. Why we should use functions. So this can be helpful in various scenarios. So yeah, this was a little bit basics on functions. So now we'll be talking about some topics. So can anyone just confirm if you have gone through recursion? What is recursion? So then we'll solve the problem using recursion. So anyone just type in the chat box if you have studied recursion. So like in the NPTEL course you were taught about recursion. So maybe I can confirm also, but if you just help me out, then it will be quicker. So I'm not seeing any topic related to recursion, so I'm not sure if you are taught about that. So I will not take an example from recursion. So let's see one more thing regarding functions. So So whenever you pass an argument to a function, here what is happening? The function actually the variable value is being copied here, and then so let's see with this example parameter passing in functions. So there are two basic ways: pass by value and then pass by reference. Fine. So when you pass by value, the value of the argument is copied. The reference of the argument is passed. So let's say we have a function incrementer. So let's say int increment. What it does is it takes an input integer and returns it, return I1, return I plus 1. So it basically increments it by 1. So maybe plus I. So yeah, we are using pre-processing plus 1 operator that changes the value and then returns it. And let's say we define a value n equals to 10 and let's see what it does. So printf the incremented value is /n and then increment I. Sorry. So we have to pass in the variable n here. So so you can see the output is the incremented value is 11. And now let's say we also want to know the original value of the number. So the original value was, and we print the value of the variable n here. So you can see it's printing the original value was 10 and the incremented value is 11. So we are passing the argument to the function as the variable n. So we are passing the variable n as argument to the function increment. And then what we are doing, we are using that value, storing that value, copying that value to the argument I here, the variable I here. And then we are doing some operation on that variable I and returning that value. So what is happening is the changes that are going on this variable I are not getting reflected in the variable n. So that's why the value of n is unchanged after this function has been called. So this is the first way by which we pass the value. So this is pass by value. This is one of the ways to pass values to a function. Now let's say we want to use pass by reference. What happens? Let's see what is happening. So while using pass by reference, we simply pass the address of the value nt pointer. So we pass the address of the variable and we dereference it and do the magic. Yeah. So now what we are doing in this case, we are not passing the using pass by value here. We are using pass by reference here. So there are few terms that are new here. So let me explain you guys. So and is the standard operator that we have been using for a long time. So it returns the address of the variable which is given of the variable on which it is associated. So it will pass the address of the variable n. Now, what is asterisk here? Why we are using the star mark here? So star is used to denote pointers in C. Used to define pointer variables in C, and pointer variables store addresses. So basically addresses of variables. So basically anti-star means we are creating a variable that is of data type a pointer that stored address of of a particular integer value, and we are storing that address in the variable I. So essentially we are not passing the value of the variable n here, we are passing its address and we are storing that address in the variable I. Now what we are doing, first we are dereferencing. So let's say n equals to 10 and n was stored at location 1000. Now we when the function increment is called, the I becomes 1000. So basically we are passing the address of the variable n. So it's 1000, it's not 10. Now what happens when we write the statement asterisk I, this is dereference operator. Dereference operator. So what it does is it currently I contains the address. What it does is it takes the value stored at the given address and and returns that value, returns it. So what it does is basically, so as asterisk I basically means take the value that is stored at location I. Take the value stored at location I, that is location 1000, which is equals to 10. So now what it's doing, it's pointing to the at memory location 1000 and the value stored at that location is 10. Now what we are doing the increment operation over that. So it's updating the value by 1. So you are going to the memory location 1000. We are seeing that there is a value 10 stored there. Just increment it so it becomes 11. Now what happens? Now simply return that value. So we are returning 11 here. So we are getting that value from this print statement. Fine. So the incremented value is 11. So this is correct. Now what we are saying that the original value was also 11. It's saying. So for the second part, we are printing the value of the variable n. So it was declared as 10, but now it has become 11 after this operation. Why it is happening? So why this scenario is happening? Because we are incrementing doing the operation at that memory location. We are updating the value at that memory location. That's why the value of n is also updated. It's 11. So this is how we use pass by reference in C. So everyone, now is this concept clear to you guys? That you can pass variables to functions by two ways. We can pass arguments. One is passed by value and one is passed by reference. So can you just confirm if you get this concept, why the value of the variable n is incremented here? So just type in the chat box if you get the idea of what I was trying to explain right now. So yeah, I'm getting thumbs up from you guys. So yeah, this was about pass by value, pass by reference in functions. So let's move further and so let's cover next topic. So this was all that I had right now regarding functions. So these were some basic problems that we solved using functions. We saw many features that a function can do, that can be done using functions. So we saw return statement, how it behaves with a function. We saw how to pass by value and pass by reference in functions. We saw how to write function prototypes. And in the earlier we saw why we do need these functions, why these are required. So this is the all about functions that I have right now. So I have some few more questions than I can solve. So write a C program to check if a given number is even or odd. So we did this. So write a C program to get the largest element of an array using function. So let's solve this problem just for the sake of closure on functions. So again we stdio dot hatch and then void name. And now we want to find the largest number in an array. So let's declare an int array containing 10 elements and we define those values. So 11, 20, let's put in some random numbers, 50, then 1000, 1011, 0001, 204. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, we need to write a function. So let's say we have the function is we'll declare a variable max and let's call the function as get max and pass in the array as parameter and then print the value. The maximum value stored in the array is so max. Fine. So yeah, this is the function. Now we have not defined the function body. So let's define the function here. So it returns integer value. So we'll be using return as int as the return type, and it takes in array as an input. So for passing array as an argument to a function, we need to declare the array variable like this. So we need this square brackets to define that we are actually passing an array here, and we don't need to pass anything like that here. We just need to pass the array name here. Now what we need to do, we declare a function m. Let's give it the value at array at index 0. Now the standard program that we have done earlier also. So we iterate through the array and get the max. So if m is greater than arr at I, m equals to arr at I. That's it. And then finally we return m. Fine. So let's see how it works. Code.c. So the maximum value, what's the issue? It's saying the maximum value stored in the array is 1. So I believe I have passed something wrong here. So let's print the array. Let's see what is happening. I'm pretty sure that I'm passing the array incorrectly. Yeah, right. I is equals to %d and change the line. So from these types of error, you should be understanding how I'm trying to debug these issues. So yeah, this will help you to understand how debugging goes on. So yeah. So no, we are getting the okay. So the logic is incorrect somehow. If m is greater than arr at I, m equals to arr at I. So yeah, it should work. Let's see why it's not working. So maybe max is a m function in. So yeah, max is also a function in C, I believe, inbuilt function. No, that's not the issue. Why is this happening? So this if statement is not getting true even. Let's see what is happening here. Let's see m equals to, let's print some value. Then arr at I equals to print some value, and then let's see what the compiler is doing when we are comparing those values. So m is greater than arr at I is equals to. So let's print m here. Then m. Okay, yeah, the logic was correct. Just an inequality. So essentially, we are assuming that m contains the maximum value, and if we need to check if there is a value that is greater than m in the array, then we need to update array. So we were doing the opposite. So that's why it was actually trying to find for the minimum element. So let's run the code again. So yeah, you can see the maximum value stored in the arrays, some this value. So this is how you can use functions to pass arrays as parameters and arrays and arguments. And this is a basic example of using functions. So that's it. That's all I have for functions right now. So moving further, we will be discussing some basic problems on the topics that were covered during this week. So if you have any queries till now, you can type in the chat box. So we will be having a break for 5 minutes. So it's 19:01 or 19:02. I mean 7:02. So we'll resume at 7:07. So let me type in the chat box. So write your, write your queries in the chat box. We are having a break for 5 minutes. We will resume at 19:07 from my clock. Fine. So yeah. So welcome back everyone. So there is a question from one of the students. So what's the difference between exit and return? So exit statement is used to terminate the program at any stage. So whenever, let's say I'm writing a program and if I type, let's say it's a big program here. If I type exit here, nothing will be executed after this. So everything will be terminated. Return function is a statement that is used to return something from a function. It denotes something like we are going to return something. But what exit does is it terminates the program. So there is a difference between them. So it basically when you type a return within a statement, it returns from that function. But when you type in exit from a function, even the main function, the program is can terminated. Even the statements in the main function after that function will also not be executed. So why not should we try? Let's see what happens. So in the helper function, let's say if I type in after, um, so let's say we'll be entering a negative number and we type in exit here, right? So let's see what is happening. So this was program number 2. Hmm. This is the 2 dots. Oh yeah. stdlib.h. Okay, so it's defined as stdlib.h. So lib.h. Let's say we print. So you see, we entered a negative number. What the helper did here is it called the function. So what the helper did is it skipped this part, execution part, since the number is negative. And then when you call exit here, it did not. It not only execute from the function, it exited from the main function also. So nothing was printed. So let's say after helper function we were printing something something here, and let's see what happens. There is an exit in the helper function, and let's see what happens. So you see something is also not getting printed. So although the program is exiting from the returning from the function helper also, but the main function, the lines in the main function after that function call are also not getting executed. So this is the difference between a return and an exit function. So did I answer your question? So Shreya, can you just confirm if you get the idea? So even everyone of you, else of you also, if you have any queries, just type in the chat box. Fine. So now we'll be starting with some problems that are from the topic that has been covered in this week. So let me, so let's start. So in this week, you studied about the sorting. So what is sorting? Then sorting. Then first you started with binary search. So let's say you have given an ordered array. Then how to search using binary search for an element using binary search. Then you saw you learned about 3 of the sorting techniques. One of them is selection sort, then merge, selection sort, insertion sort, and bubble sort. So these are the problems that are on those topics only. So let's solve these one by one. So first question says, what is the worst case complexity of selection sort? So let's see what will be the answer. So what do we do in selection sort? So essentially in selection sort, what we do, we find the minimum. So let's say we are trying to sort the array in ascending. Then what we do, we traverse through the array, find the minimum element, and then choose that minimum element, move it to the starting index 0, swap it with that element, then again traverse with the remaining part of the array. And we do this for every element that occurs in the array. So I don't know if you were taught about complexity or not, but complexity here means how many times the function would be called, how many steps how many steps it would take the array to sort. So the correct solution is order of n square. Option D. in the order of n squared. Because for every element in the array, you are calling the array let me copy this here. So for every index in the array, you are running the loop for n times, n minus 1 times. So it is taking n squared. So there are two for loops that run for n. So it's an order of n squared. So let's go ahead and solve the next problem. Given n const array. So is the text visible? Font size is fine for you guys? I can zoom in a bit. So now it should be clear, I believe. If it's not, just you can tell me. So I hope it's clear. So yeah, let's start. So given an array, I think there are some messages for me. Fine. Sorry. So yeah, given an array ARR equals to 12, 34, 47, and so on, and key equals to 34, what are the mid values generated in the first and the second iterations of binary search? So let me complete this question in a binary search. So let's say we want to find for this key 34. So what are the mid values and the generated in the first and the second iteration in a binary search? So let's start with what binary search is, and then we will solve this problem. Fine. So let's say we have an sorted array that contains the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have an array 1 to 8, and we want to find the value of this array. Find the search for a particular value in this array, and let's say the value is 4 here. 4. So the idea behind the binary search is you first divide the array into two parts from the middle. So what would the middle element in this? So there are total number of 8 elements here. So the mid element will be at index 4, index 3, basically fourth element. So you divide it into two parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the second half would be 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you check. So we were searching for, let's say, 2. We were searching for 2. So what we do? Divide into two equal sized arrays. Fine. So we were searching for 2 and we divide it into two equal sized arrays. Then what we need to do? We have to check. So now what we get the mid element. What is the middle element here? So essentially it will be at index equals to total elements with integer division by 2. So it's an integer division. Total elements of 4. The element at index 4. So now the elements at index 4 is that is equals to 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is element 5. Now compare it with the number that we are trying to search for. So we are searching for 2. So 2 is less than 5. So what we need to do? We need to go towards the left array. We don't care about the array at the right hand side because it's sorted. So we know if the mid element is 5, then if you are searching for 2, 2 can't be found in the array on the right hand side that contains the values greater than 5. So we eliminate that array. So we take the array on the left hand side 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the length of the array is 4. The mid element is 4 by 2, that is index 2, that is 3. Now again 2 is less than 3, so take the left half. So 1 comma 2. Now what happens? Total element is 1, 2. So mid element would be index 1, that is 2. Now we know 2 equals to 2. Then yeah, we have found 2 in the array. So this is how binary search works. So let's see how we solve this problem. So for us, the array is this. So let's copy it. How many elements are here? Total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So total 9 elements. Mid would be at location 4 since we are dealing with integral divisions. So at index 4, which is equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is equals to 85. Fine. So it is 85. Now this is the iteration 1. Iteration 1. And 34 is less than 85. So take left. So we start with iteration 2 to total of now the array is up till 85. So total elements are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Total 4 elements. The array becomes this. So this, fine. So now the mid equals to index. So total elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 elements. So the mid index equals to 5 by 2, that is 2. The value is 47. Okay, so on the left hand side we are dealing with mid. Mid is at so now mid it has so total 4 elements. So 4 by 2, that is 2. Index 2. Okay. So yeah, just a change here. While computing mid, what we do, start index divide plus end index by 2. So start index plus end index divide by 2. This is the mid. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it would be index 0 plus 8 divided by 2, which is equals to 4. And ARR at 4 equals to 85. So this is what it goes. Now iteration 2, total 4 elements, mid equals to index at start index is 0 and index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 3 divided by 2, which is equals to 1. So ARR at 1 equals to 0, 1, that is 34. So this is the mid value. And then yeah, the question says what are the mid values for the first and second iterations? So the mid values are 85 and 34. Another options. Option B is correct. So we got our solution. Solution option B, 85 and 34. So this is how binary search works. So let's go ahead and solve the next problem. So anyone, do you have any queries in this problem? So do you have any queries? Just type in the chat box, or we can proceed with the next problem. So I believe none of you have any queries. So let's proceed with the next problem. So consider the array A, it contains some values and we have to apply the insertion sort to sort the array. And consider the cost associated is 25. What is the total cost for the insertion sort of this array? So I hope every one of you is familiar with the process of insertion sort. So we'll be solving this array, solving this problem. So yeah, so let's start with the insertion sort procedure, how it works. So let's start with the iteration. So let's start with the input. So 5 4 9 1 3. So this is the input. So let's start with iteration 1. So what we are doing, uh, so cost is for each sort. So yeah, so we start from the left hand side, the starting index, and check if the value is less than. So we check the values 5 and 4. So we know that 5 is greater than 4. So we simply swap them. So it becomes 4 5 and then 9 1 3 9 1 3. So this is one swap. It takes one swap. So let's get to iteration 2. In this case, what we do, we start from the next element, that is the element at index 2, 1, 5, and 9. We know these are sorted, so we don't need to do anything. So this is fine. So for the next step, we check 9 and 1, and we know that 1 is smaller than 9. So we swap these values. So it becomes 4, 5, 1, 9, 3. Now again, we check 1 with 5 and see 1 is smaller than 5. So 4, 1, 5, 9, 3. Now we check 4 and 1. So we know 1 is smaller than 4. So 1, 4, 5, 9, 3. Now at last we check. So this was iteration 2. Now let's start with so it's iteration 3. Iteration 3. And now we will check 9 and 3. We know 3 is less than 9, so they will be swapped. 5, 3, 9. Again, 3 and 5 will be checked, and we know they are in correct order. So it will be 1, 4, 3, 5, 9. And then 1 and 4 will be 3 and 4 will be checked. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 9. And in 3 iterations, we see we are getting the correct swapped values. So we are needing total 3 iterations. So answer is 25 into 3, option C. Solution is option C. Right. Let's move with the next problem. So what will be the output of this following program? So let's analyze this program and then solve it. So let me declutter the program a bit, then we'll start with this program. Fine. So can anyone just can you guys just solve it on your own and then just type in the answers in the chat box? Then I will solve it for you guys. So I'm giving 2 minutes to you guys to solve this problem. And then we'll start discussing this problem. So yeah, I believe I need to solve this for you. So yeah, let's start. So here we are using preprocessor directives. So hashtag define, we are defining something, and what we are defining is the name func1, and it takes in two arguments. So everywhere this thing comes, so we know, we earlier we saw that hashtag define how it did behave actually. So let's say we defined hashtag define pi 3.14. So whenever pi is, variable statement was occurred in the program, it meant replace it with the given value, with the defined value. So the same goes for these types of definitions also. But instead, there is a difference. They are taking arguments also. Earlier there were no arguments. So when you pass arguments, then what happens is you replace whenever this this call is happening with the value that is defined for that. Fine. So let's see how we solve this problem. Uh, so let's solve this problem. So uh, uh, let's take these two lines and solve them. Maybe I can write it here only. So what it does is simply replace that call with the value specified on the right hand side. So this is this, this, huh. So this, okay, is greater than p. So it essentially means this, and then what we have to do, if this thing occurs, we have to replace it by this. So just copy it, paste it here. So the meaning of this statement is simply this. So replace this entire statement with this statement. So what we are doing, if 3 plus a greater than b, there is a ternary operator here. So let's put in the values. So if 3 plus 3 greater than b is 5, then return b, that is, else return a, that is 3. So essentially we are trying to return the minimum or maximum. This is false. We are trying to return minimum, I believe. I don't know. I don't know what the function is doing, but yeah, according to this, what it should return 3. So it becomes 3 plus 3. If 3 plus 3, I believe it's correct, greater than b, b is 5. So 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 is greater than 5. So this becomes true. Temp is assigned the value of a. So temp becomes a, that is 3. A becomes b, b is 5. And b becomes temp. Temp was 3, so temp is 3. So essentially what the program is doing, it's simply swapping the values of a and b. So the initially a was 3, b was 5, now b is 3, a is 5. And now we are printing ab, so option A is correct. Option 5, 3. Okay, AB, solution D. 5, 3 is correct. So yeah, this is the correct solution to this problem. So everyone, I hope you were able to catch what I was trying to explain here about the defined statements here. So you can use defined statements with parameters also. So if you have any queries, just type in the chat box so that I can explain it again, or we can proceed to the next problem. So am I audible? Is my screen visible? Can anyone just confirm if my screen is visible and I am audible? Because I'm not getting any response from you guys, so I'm not sure if things are fine. Ah, great. So now we can proceed further. First question. So let's start with question 5. So again, we have a problem on insertion sort. We are given an input and we want to find the steps of insertions done. So let's solve this problem. So this is the input And let's see what insertion sort does. So in iteration 1, what happens? 5 and 4 are compared, so they are basically swapped. So it becomes, so let's start, just write down the steps. So it becomes 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. Then 5 and 3 are compared. No, then 5 and 3 are compared, obviously. And then they are swapped. So 3 becomes here, 5 goes there. And then 5 and 2 are now we check 3 with 4 also, and we see 3 is less than 4, so it becomes 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. Then 5 and 2 are compared, and 2 becomes here, 2 comes here, and then yeah, this is the solution. And then 2 and 4 are compared, so it becomes 3, 2, 4, 5, 1. And then it becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And at the last, 1 is compared with all the values, and it will add becomes at the font. So what it's saying, what are the steps of insertions? Let's see. So let me just format it a bit. A, then B, then C, and then D. Ha. So let's solve this. Let's see which of the options is correct. So first option says first 4 comes here, then 3 comes here, then 2, then 1. So yeah, option A is correct, because this is the order in which we solved. So correct solution is. So I hope you were able to understand the solution. If you have any queries, type in the chat box. Fine, I believe there are no questions from you guys. So this was question number 5. So let's go and solve the remaining questions. So question 6. So what will the output of the following C code? Okay. So yeah. So everyone just look at this new construct hashtag if. It's basically used with define statement. And if this is correct, then this gets executed, else the next part gets executed. So you are using macros here, and by default A is not defined, so its default value is 0. So this becomes 0, false. So else part gets executed, and B is defined as 1. And now we are printing the value of P. So the correct answer is option B. Yeah. Solution. So it was a basic problem that explained macros. So what is happening is A is not initialized, so default value is 0. Thus, B becomes 1. That's it. That's the logic behind this. So let's go ahead and solve the last problem for this session. So if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. I will be addressing them just after solving this problem. So now we are defining the variable A as 10, macro A as 10, and now we are using that same. So Now what we are doing, we are trying to declare another variable with another value. So since a is a macro and it has been defined, its value will not change though. So the operation is incorrect. So correct answer is option D. It will return a compilation error. You can't change the value of this, the name A here, the token A here. So if you try to do this here, it will return a compilation error. That's the correct answer. So that's it for this session. These are some practice problems so that you can try on your own. Practice problems. And yeah, that's it. So if you have any queries regarding the questions in this session or any earlier questions, just type in the chat box. I'm still here for a few more minutes.